Live. Go ahead, Perry.
Okay, I will call the April 15th, 2025 meeting to order of Lowell Light and Power. Charlie, if you would do a roll call.
Absolutely. As soon as I reload this, Chairperson Beecham.
Here.
Vice Chair Fonger. Board Member Shroudman.
Here.
Board Member Cadwalder. And Board Member Crawford is absent, and he let me know he had some other things come up before unexpectedly today.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to excuse Daniel's absence.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried. Approval of the minutes from the March 11th, 2025 regular board meeting.
A motion to approve the minutes.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried. Safety moment.
All right, Zach is up. He's going to take the safety moment this month.
So I'm going to talk about PPE when using chainsaw. Hard hat is a good thing, just in case you have a limb above you fall down. Safety glasses. Pretty self-explanatory there. You can bring anything else. Good set of gloves, because when you're working at all times, just help with cuts, abrasions. Obviously, you've got some hearing protection. Have everything so you don't that plug me later on. And chaps. Chaps are number one thing, I think. Everybody likes to walk at the end of the day and just make sure that happens. If you've ever seen a video online of somebody stopping a chainsaw with a pair of these, it's a shocker. They stop instantly.
What is
Usually the guy goes flying.
that makes it
It's
stop?
got a Kevlar, but it's made of an extremely stringy Kevlar, so the string gets sucked up into the chain and it just stops it. And it happens very, very quickly.
And I will attest that blue jeans do not stop the chainsaw.
Another thing a lot of people don't think of when falling a tree is a wedge. These are extremely important so that it doesn't come back the other way. And those are huge. I know guys are going on the woods without one of these. Another neat little setup here is this with the face mask in front, not mandatory to wear it all, but it does help. And it's got the nice ear muffs on there and buffer double. That's what I got for safety.
Awesome, thank you. And I think it's an interesting area because it's one of the areas that what we do intersects with what people do at their house. There's a reason why we have safety standards and you should adhere to the same ones at your house. But I would also say that you drive down the road and you watch people cutting up trees. Most of them don't have chaps on. You might catch some people wear the safety glasses usually, maybe some hearing protection, if you're lucky, but you very rarely see somebody wear chaps. And I worked with a guy in Tennessee that has a nasty scar on his leg from not doing the appropriate things. So people don't think about it. The chain's still moving a lot of times when as you're done and you go to set it down somewhere. It's just good thing to remember because we trim a lot of trees, or the guys cut a lot of trees. They're in the safety gear and the PPE routinely. So it's easier. They have that constant reminder, but when you're at home, it might be the only time you pick up a chainsaw. So if you don't have what you need, call somebody. I know a bunch of guys that would rather come help you than watch somebody lose a leg or finger or something like that. So thank you, Zach.
Public comment. At this point, I'm going to, I know what it is, address to the Lowell Light and Power Board. And it says, thank you, with sincere thanks and appreciation. And it goes on to say, thank you for allowing us to go to the rodeo. It was a lot of fun and a great experience. Signed, Ryan, Mark, Jared, and Steve. Mark and Ryan are here tonight for a few minutes. I think they're gonna talk about it a little bit and I believe they want to thank the board personally for allowing them to do that. So it's in your ball, it's in your court.
Right up front and center. You know, it's a small room.
So, as you guys know, we went to the rodeo. The team of us, the three of us, and then we sent an apprentice. It was a great experience.
And your wife.
Yes, I brought my wife along.
She's
Yep.
mad at us.
Yeah. So, no, we just wanted to personally come by and thank you all. It was awesome. Thank you, Terry, for driving our stuff out there. I hope we can do it again. It was a blast and
And I'll tell you right now, we certainly will. Charlie and I have talked about it. We think that we're gonna make a few changes.
Yep.
In that if it's west of Kansas City, we probably will not attend. If it's east of Kansas City, then we probably will. And the other is we're going to seriously look at, so next year it's in
Huntsville, Alabama.
and so that's gonna be an easy, I think, an easy drive. And then other years when it's out, west of Kansas City, we will seriously look at doing the, light up the
Navajo Nation. Yeah.
during that. So, you know, if they move them around, so again, we'll be flip flopping, but we will not. I think it's worth every dime, but it's logistics. And again, and you guys could, if you want, you could speak about, as soon as you got back, you were, helping a neighbor in Michigan. Again, that's,
And thanks for letting us go do that too.
Yeah, no, that's what this trade's about, is helping other communities and municipalities get their lights back on. We would be asking the same if our lights were out here. You know, if we needed help, we're gonna ask. And that's one of the perks of being a journeyman lineman, is going out and helping. And yeah, we got back, worked 8 hours of a normal day here in Lowell, got the call, and Mark and I headed north, help Harbor Springs, so.
For a while.
Yeah,
It was not a short trip.
that's,
Just short of a week, yeah.
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 For a lot of hours work.
And we talked, we were like, hey, well, we'll go help out Alpina or whoever, and that's just what we do. And Zach would attest and say the same thing, so. No, we truly appreciate it. It's beautiful weather out there. My wife's going through pictures. Hopefully we can get a collage of pictures. She brought her fancy camera, as I call it. So, yeah.
I know, if you can't, shortly, I mean, you don't, but what were did you learn anything? What were some of the things that you did out there? What, just highlight a couple things that you.
Well, as you watch other teams do events to get ideas, you gather ideas of how they would do it. In the real world, we would not do it that way. But for a competition like that, that's how it was done, and we would pick up on those things.
Yeah, a lot of people cheat a lot of things, but it's competition.
Improvise.
Yeah.
We don't want to call you cheaters. Improvise.
No, just watching other teams, already have a blanket on a hot hoist to jack up the phase. It's like,
It's not.
No, nobody does that.
like, yeah, you take the time, but, yeah, it's a big competition. I mean, the best of the best go there, and it's sweet to watch the best of the best and be around, and they'll walk up to you, hey, how'd you do today? And it's like, well, we're from Lowell, Michigan, and This is half of the company right here at the rodeo. And you guys got 5 teams and we get to go, we're having fun. They're like glad to hear that you're having fun. And that's what it's about, is having fun.
The other, so I'll tell you what pumped my chest up is, and I think there's a picture in the later. There's a map of the United States and where all the teams come from. And we were the only team from Michigan out there. And I just think it says a lot about Lowell Light and Power.
And the smiles.
And,
Smile.
but if you look at, if you look at the map, there was no teams from Wisconsin, Indiana, Pennsylvania. There was a lot from North Carolina, but anyway, yeah, it made me proud to be from Lowell Light and Power.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, one of the smallest ones, and we get to go participate. So
Definitely.
Well, thank you guys for representing us.
Yeah, thank you guys.
it's all you
Thank
guys
you.
go, and that being short-handed and all that kind of stuff, and very appreciated.
Yeah.
We appreciate you guys for going out there and working, because that's, you didn't go out there just to drink a beer and watch a football game. You guys were out there hauling butt.
And
Hit the
they got
ground
maxed
running.
out.
Yeah.
Everybody tried their hardest.
The other, and I'm, when you're at this event, it's, I think Mark should certainly have a trophy for, it was so impressive. Mark doing his thing, climbing poles and everything. And I will guarantee you, he was probably the next youngest lineman out there was probably 20 years younger than Mark. And if you're not in a bucket, linemen are a tough group. If you're out with them, you feel very comfortable that nobody's going to pick on you. If you're not in a bucket truck, it's a young man's profession.
But it's still the main part of line work is doing that stuff.
Yeah, being
Fine.
able to backlot climb and
And that's something that it's really important. And as a small municipal utility, I think it's one of the biggest benefits of participating in the rodeo is the amount of climbing that they do to get ready for it. And the mentorship that these guys provide to the younger guys, Riley and Jared, are in their apprenticeship. It's important to be exposed to climbing. It's important to be exposed to a wide variety of line workers, but just the prep work, getting ready for it. We don't climb every day. We do our best not to, if you can. It's not the most efficient way to get things done, but it's a absolutely critical skill. And being able to do the work that you do out of a bucket from the pole, it's very different. So I'm told. I've never done it.
We'll get you there.
No, probably not. I know where I'm best suited, and it's with 2 feet on the ground. But these guys are awesome leaders, and the work and the team building here, getting ready for it, is even if nothing came of the actual rodeo, the amount of time and training and mentorship that happened here, getting ready for it, is worth every penny to send them out there. So it really can't underscore the importance from a local perspective, and for the guys that didn't go as well, because they're out there practicing, they're out there working off hooks and not working out of the bucket, getting ready for it. So it's just a really good opportunity to do some things that you don't necessarily do every day on a small system. So appreciate you guys a lot.
And thank you very much for coming.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Harry, I could be wrong, but I think you may have given approval of the agenda. You went from Dan to the
Oh.
minutes. I just want to make sure that you got.
See you, fellas.
I don't remember you saying the agenda.
No, I couldn't
Julie will have.
say not.
Julie, did we take a vote on the agenda, approval of the agenda?
The minutes.
Okay,
Roll call.
Yeah.
no,
I couldn't-
thank you for reminding me.
Well, I was gonna do it already, but I'm like, it's easy to listen.
Yeah, we did roll call in the agenda.
So
I thought we did minutes too, but I couldn't remember.
we did the minutes, but we didn't do the approval. of the
That's what it
agenda.
was.
So
Yeah.
I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
I'll support.
It's been moved and supported. Any further discussion?
I'll sleep tonight.
Yeah.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried. All right, now we're back on to any other public comment. Action items.
No action item.
Open, closed, go home. No.
Informational items.
All right, we will jump right in. I'm going to start with the first informational item. In this board meeting, been a couple things that I've not brought to the board because we've had some heavier board meetings. But the first four items under the informational items are some of them are cyclical type things that you'll have seen before. Some of them take a little different form, and some are going to be new. So heavy on information items today. Happy to dig in wherever anybody would like. Start with the outage report. This is our annual outage eReliability benchmarking report. The whole thing's included in your packet. A couple things I just wanted to highlight along the way. SAIDI is the average, pretty much how long can a customer expect to be out? So it's our entire customers. So on average, our customers experienced on average, our customers experienced less than 20 minutes in outages last year. That's a fantastic number. So that's a really positive number. On average, less than 1 in every 5 customers experienced an outage last year. So only 17% of our customers.
So if you go back up to next one, and so that's if you notice that we're within the first quartile, right?
Yes. Yes. Yeah, and we stack up really, and some of the graphs highlight kind of where we stack. It doesn't necessarily hit your first quartile, median, mean, and those numbers fluctuate. But yeah, we stack up very well against our peers, and as a whole, municipal electric systems tend to have the highest level of reliability of all the forms of utilities. So when you stand out amongst a group of standouts, it says a lot about operations and the board and everything else. I'm going to roll through this pretty quick and just get to the graphs. Happy to touch on any of the numbers. Wanted to stop at this graph. So I think it's, we talk about making database decisions. Again, you can look through all the statistics. They're statistics. You can read into them. But with the outage causes, I think it's important to highlight, there's obviously 4 major reasons that we experience outages: equipment, weather, wildlife, and vegetation. I think the equipment, large percentage of the equipment failures is tied to cutouts, porcelain cutouts that Ryan did the board training on the cutouts and kind of showed you how the porcelain falls apart. So we are proactively addressing equipment failures. Wildlife, I know the board's familiar with critter guarding and the things that we do to protect against wildlife. Vegetation, we're always trimming trees. I think they were trimming trees this week. And then when you look at weather, people say it's hard to control weather, it's hard to stop weather, but there are a lot of things that we absolutely do that help protect against weather-related outages. All the new poles that we've set on the east side of town absolutely are more resilient to weather issues. The vegetation management, if trees are further away from the lines, weather's less likely to cause trees to get into the lines. So can't stop all the weather, but there are things that we can do to make our system more resilient to weather-related outages, replacing porcelain cutouts, things like that. All the other causes of outages that we're addressing also help us address weather. So I think it's important to highlight, what do we do with this information? Why do we track this information and what do we do with it? But we're already doing it. None of this is necessarily a surprise. We know what our major causes of outages are, and we're proactively addressing those. I think there's questions, comments.
Yeah, I'm just going, does this come with our APPA membership, or is this a value-added thing? Or, I mean, is it a value-added thing, or is it something we pay separately for?
This is part of the eReliability program, which is an add-on cost, but it's very nominal. I think we pay 2 or 3 years at a time, and it comes out to like $300 or $400 a year. So it's very nominal. And it's something that at MMEA, we're pushing very heavily towards, is encouraging members to participate in eReliability. It's a great program. It's a good program for things just like this chart right here. Just being able to say, what are the root causes of our outages, and what are we doing to address them? Or are we doing anything to address them? Are we just ignoring them? So yeah, this is really good information.
I think, I was just gonna comment that I think, not only trimming trees and everything, but educating the public. I think we have taken low light power a proactive step in educating the public. We've had the tree giveaway. Again, there's a different reason why we're doing that, but again, with that, we're explaining where trees should be planted. I sit on the Arbor Board. Zach attends the Arbor Board meetings, and before that, it was Ryan attending those meetings, and Jim and I are both on that, and we get flyers and everything of where appropriate sized trees should be planted. And again, I don't want to just highlight the cutting of the trees, but some of the proactive things that Light and Power is doing in the community to educate where trees should be planted.
And stopping them once they are planted. I know Zach has his hands full sometimes, but we try to catch things early, and it's easy to look at a 5-foot tall, newly planted tree and go, that's not going to be a problem. But give it 10 years. And quite frankly, those conversations are never pleasant. It's not ideal to have to go to somebody and say, hey, you just planted a tree, but it can't stay there. But by being willing to do that, we're not kicking the can down the road. We could very easily choose to turn a blind eye and not address that problem and create a problem, probably not for ourselves, but it's probably 15, 20 years down the road with some of these trees that you actually have the problems. But yeah, to your point, I think some of the tree benefits and vegetation management benefits are hard to see, but they're long-term benefits of educating the public, moving trees before, having customers relocate trees before they're an issue. So there's a lot of pieces to that. I would agree. Moving on to the, go ahead. Yeah.
The blue and orange that one. So I thought it was interesting that there is, for all the other utilities, there's non-payment, right? That's the primary outage.
Yeah, and I disagree with this. That's not an outage. Non-payment's not an outage.
Yeah.
It's just not I mean, it's a sustained interruption, but it's not an outage. We don't log our non-payments as outages.
Okay.
And we won't unless there's a compelling reason to start. But I don't agree that it's an outage. Yeah.
But that's when someone's been shut off because they weren't paid.
We
wouldn't much there anyway. So.
No, we would not have much. Today was a disconnect day. There's a lot of people or not a lot. There was a few people that were on and back off, or they were off and then back on. But I consider, what do we have? Same as if a tree takes down a service and it rips the meter off the house. The customer's responsible for putting that back up. That's not an outage. We don't count those minutes waiting on the customer. So if it's out of our control, then it shouldn't negatively impact it. It's not this is a reflection of our operational, what we do operationally. Whether or not somebody can pay their bill is a different arena to consider and a different topic of conversation.
Mhm.
So with that comment you just made, Charlie, so if my meter is ripped up, also need to call an electrician besides light and power? You guys come back?
Yeah, we'll come out and I would say the best thing to do is communicate with the guys when they're out there. But yes, the meter itself, the meter base, the weatherhead is owned by the customer. So if the service if everything's ripped off the house, then all we can do is come disconnect the service, roll it up on the pole, and then the customer, typically it's an insurance claim at that point, hires an electrician to do that. Yeah.
Maybe the public will know that too. so.
Yeah, no, that's good. No, there's a lot of information out there. One of the things that we'd like to do from a communication standpoint is just education on what do we own versus what does the customer own. And there's a ton of graphics out there that we can beg, borrow, and steal to share that message.
But that electrician does have to call that power if they want to do it.
Yes, yes, yes.
The other one I wanted to ask about was Katie.
Katie, which one's Katie? Yes,
112.9.
I'm gonna go to the graph. Gives a little more context. Yeah, so Katie is the average duration of customers that actually, it's basically the average duration of outages themselves.
Yeah. Per customer, like per
It's the average,
customer experiencing an outage.
yes, for the customers that actually experience, where
Yeah.
I gotta remember them, safety is the,
Entire customer base.
yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a good number to highlight because it is in the graph. And I'm sorry, did you have a specific question?
Well, mainly I was just gonna note that's kind of everything we were within the first quartile, right? Except for this one. And this is like middle of the road, or which I think is kind of what you're showing.
Mhm.
But and so that was like, well, do we have opportunities there to improve that? Maybe we don't, but that's something that's worth discussing. But-
So I think I'm glad you brought this up because I actually talked to Perry about this last week. This number should not go to zero. This number, there is a floor of how fast can an outage be restored safely?
Mhm.
So I don't think it's the area to attack it's a byproduct of doing the job and doing it well. If there are opportunities in how we chain, if there are better ways to assess an outage, there are better ways to address some of the things around it. But as far as attacking this number, the way to cut this is all the wrong reasons. It's safety typically.
Yeah.
In order to cut this down, it ends up being, you've got to cut corners. We can just throw the cutout back in instead of patrolling the line. Where we could, in order to drive this down, in my opinion, you have to, for one, make your line workers live closer. A lot of that time is
Yeah.
so, and that's not a disruption that I think is I don't think that's worth the juice isn't worth the squeeze on that. Safety considerations, because it's also a number that doesn't.
They were talking about competition that you don't want to take.
Yeah. So if you look, it's interesting because our trend line is very flat.
Yeah.
It does go up and down, and there you'll have some natural fluctuations and variations year to year based on the actual outages that you have. But this one, to me, it's a great number because you also you want to minimize your outage. The other piece of how to address this is stop doing some of the things we're doing because we don't have dead squirrels. That's a 10-minute outage. That's a big one. If you stop squirrel guarding, we could drive that number way down. Obviously, I'm not advocating for that, but I think it's interesting because this is the one number where we end up in the middle of the pack.
Mhm.
I don't think it's reflective of our reliability individually. Taken as a whole, I think it's a testament to the fact that we've eliminated the easy short outages. It's pretty easy to go knock a tree limb off a power line, drive it out, refuse a cutout, and you've got a 20-minute outage. You go you find a squirrel on the ground, you drive the line out. There's nothing really to fix. We have minimized the outages where there's nothing to fix. And that does drive that number up. A lot of the outages we have are going to take a little bit more because there's just not that low hanging fruit. So I'm glad you brought it up because I think it appears to stand out, but I think there's very good reasons why it stands out as middle of the road.
And that's partly why I wanted to bring that up, is I was wondering what the other factors come into play, you know, and how it's being calculated, except I'm not quite sure what I thought. Did it mean like per outage? This is like kind of averages per outage. So if you have a one customer out for 2 hours,
It's
that
120
averages
minutes.
into another one that's 100 people out for 1
No,
hour.
it is when you go to, oh,
I know.
yeah, there it is. There's your calculation. 80 is calculated by dividing the sum of all customer minutes of interruption by the number of customers that experienced one or more hours. So if you had,
During that period.
yeah, so if you had 10 customers that were all out for 1 hour, you're taking 600 outage minutes
Yeah.
divided by 10 customers, you get a 60-minute Katie.
I guess what I'm wondering is, I know we've had some like individual customers that have been out for a while, you know, because they were kind of remote, or they went home and we didn't, or whatever happened, and it's like, those aren't awful, but they seem to drive it up. I don't know if that makes a big impact.
We're getting into the weeds a little bit that I don't get into them that much. I mean, you're really getting into assessing individual outages. The other piece
No,
of
it's
this
just
is,
how it factors into the overall committee, right?
but we also don't have a ton of outages. So I would agree that if you have one very lengthy outage, it's going to drive, it's all about total outage minutes, total customers that experience an outage. And when you don't have a ton of customers experiencing an outage, when your divisor is low, a little bit of change in the other number can really move that overall number quite a bit. From my takeaway on this is there's nothing directly actionable that comes from that Katie number. It's a good number to understand, but I do not anticipate making operational changes in order to address that number, because I don't see it as a problem, I guess, even if we are in the middle of the
I
pack.
guess as long as we're thinking about it, you know,
Yeah.
I guess that's kind of my point, right? If there's one number that shows us not being in the top quartile, then why would that be, right? And making sure we understand that, and if that's something we want to kind of accept as is, like you're saying, I think that's fine, but I think it's,
If
there's an opportunity that's there, great. If there isn't anything that comes up and we think about it and say, you know what, there's nothing we can do that would make things faster and maintain safety, okay, then at least we thought about it.
I'd also
The other
say
thing
is that
what I don't see in this eReliability system is sort of like a standard deviation or something like, well, what is the long outage, right? In terms of, so anecdotally, I know that whenever we have a storm,
I think you're
my
getting,
coworkers are out for days.
I think
and I
you're
can't remember
getting
the
at
last time
this
we had
number.
somebody out more than a day, right?
I think you're getting at this. They classify a major event threshold, and that is calculated per utility, and then you can include and exclude major outages. But the fact that we don't have anything that
Right.
rises to the level of hitting that number, which looks like a small number, 19 minutes, but we would have to have our entire system, the number that they use, you'd have to have your entire system off for 20 minutes
Right.
before you considered it a major event. And
Or
you can do
serve
the
our
math.
system for an hour, I mean, or something.
Yeah, I would say, or half the system for 40 minutes, or you can do the math, it's proportional. So, but no, I don't see, I think the importance with this is not to get married to any one statistic,
Mhm.
but to look at them
Right.
as a whole, because they're very much impact each other. They're not directly, but they're relational. If you have very few outages, you might have that Katie number may be higher. And that's kind of our situation. Or, if you're minimizing outages and, you just don't have many, things can get skewed. And now if every number was high, or 2 or 3 of them were out of alignment, but I don't see an issue with the Katie number, because we know what it's for, why it's from. And I think, when you look down at the pie chart here, I think you see that we're taking this data and we're turning it into actionable items. So it's not that we're we're just saying, oh, this is a great report, pat ourselves on the back. We are taking it. I think this is where we focus our efforts on takeaways from this report is root causes of the actual outages and what are we doing to address the outages? Because the actual restoration,
This one, right, but it's the bar chart, because this is everybody,
this is causes of outages.
for everybody, not just us though,
No, I think this is us, isn't it?
for all utilities using
Or-
the factor.
Oh, this is for all utilities. Ours are very similar.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
orange and blue bar chart.
Yes, this
I think
one.
it's-
Oh, no, it's
maybe
further
below
down.
that, yeah.
This one.
Cause I think that's the.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
orange one. or red
This
one,
is what
whatever
we're-
it is. That's what we would be.
Yeah, this is what we did. And we don't use this report for that. We do it more ongoing.
Yeah, but it's that kind of is a measure of how well we're doing when it comes to squirrels or the trees or. Right, they can give us something to say, hey, this is what we, and that's why we are attracting squirrels and trees, because that's what we've already known. But as you mentioned, now we've got the porcelain things that are kind of driving, so I want to say trees or squirrels used to be the bigger thing than.
I'd have to go back and look at previous years.
I look at the last 5 years and it's really plateaued to a point, and I think that's because that's when you guys really started thinking about the tree trimming and the squirrel
Yeah.
numbers. All those things, so it's been pretty good over since that. I
Yeah.
don't know what happened in 2017.
Yeah, what was that about with the other utilities on that, Katie?
I don't have any answers for that.
Okay. I mean, I assume it had to have been a storm or something.
I'm not, I'm not sure because that probably excludes major events. But I'd also say we probably talked about it the last 5 years or 6 years too. I mean, it's been an anomaly that's been there.
Yeah, I remember we talked about it, I forget what it was, but I want to say it was some.
Cause yeah, I mean, I guess I would have noticed it when the last few years I've been here too, so.
But yeah, I think these are like really nice charts though.
Yeah, but I think
These, because they show the trend. And it's kind of showing that we've kind of said, hey, look, we are flat with Katie, but we also know that's probably because we're at the limit
Wait.
that we can do there.
I can drive,
But everything else.
we can absolutely drive that number down,
You know, as long
but
as we think about it, right?
Yes.
And it's really for all of these, right? As long as we're kind of saying, all right, here's some information, what does it mean?
so I would say these two numbers
And those
are directly actionable. These are an indication of whether or not your system
Mhm.
is reliable or not.
And the AC number too.
That's more of a marketing number, but it is. I mean, it's
Well,
very,
a trend, right? It's still there.
it's a trend. It's there. That really is a marketing number because it means very little difference. 99.995 means very little to the average person compared to 99.999. We know a little bit more of what goes into how difficult it is to get further above that, but the ASAI, the system availability, is very much a byproduct of these other numbers. But these two, I would say, are very much, if we're not where we are, we need to be looking at what do we change. It's an indication that a change is probably necessary, where Katie isn't necessarily that immediate indication that you need to do something different. There may
Well,
be
but
something.
it would be for like consumers, right? It's like, as I mentioned anecdotally, my coworkers are out for days or a week for a storm. And I don't think at the time I've been on the board, the longest anyone's had an outage is like 16 hours. or
But
something.
I would also say
So they had an issue, you know, that's like, well, they might look at that and say, hey, if we've got customers having a really high Katie, can they do something about it? We're at the point where maybe we can't,
Yeah.
right?
Their numbers here are also not particularly attractive.
Yeah, but.
So that's, but yes,
saying
it
Katie's
becomes,
It's not a worthless metric, but it's one.
don't want it to say it's worth, it's by far, by no means a worthless metric, but it very much gets, it is, the perspective of how to look at this is shaped by these two numbers, not as a standalone. It's more, it can't be looked at in a vacuum.
Mhm.
This one you can look at in a vacuum. This one you can look at in a vacuum, and you can say there are issues with reliability.
But just quickly, I think one is you have to be careful of how you look at it, and in my opinion, and that's because it all depends on how many utilities have enrolled in this? You know,
There's quite a few. I don't remember how many there are, but there are quite a few.
there's quite a few,
Yeah.
but there's still, if you had everyone, if it was like mandatory for everyone, I mean, you'd see similar numbers and everything, but there still would be some differences. Because it's not mandatory to participate in this evaluation or.
Yeah, and every data set has its limit. But I think, as you mentioned, these are the things that we still can do something about, right? Sadie and I forget the other one now.
Sadie and Safety.
Safety, yeah.
Yeah.
And and apparently we're doing something about it because they're actually getting better.
I would say that I mean, yeah, we can drive them down. At a certain point, kind of like bad debt, there's just,
I mean, I would be worried, or I would be concerned if that blue line were way.
if it were, yeah,
And the other one, well, but even the Katie,
Yeah.
that would be telling us something,
Yeah,
but we're in line, like,
but that's the
really
vacation.
solidly in line, so I just can't see where it would be.
and Katie becomes more relevant when it's a case for when you have lots of extended outages,
Well, that's
because
what I'm getting at,
yeah.
right? Like in the consumer case, there are all my coworkers that have days of outages. Consumers could do something about that, potentially, right? They would want to say, all right, how do we reduce outage durations when we have a backlog of outages we're trying to attack? What could they do? we're not trying to solve their problem,
No.
but.
And
I think-
the
But here we're at the point where we haven't had that problem.
solution,
One time we had, our crews were like at that 16-hour limit and got everything done. And so we haven't had an outage big enough to really cause a major.
but what I would say to consumers is the way to shorten outages is minimize outages. You only have so many resources. And that's also why part of our Katie is the way it is we're limited on resources. If we had 10 more linemen, that Katie would go down. We'd have somebody ready to restore, but it's a good number for because part of it is when you have multiple outages. And that's what happens on,
Storms, yeah.
bigger storms is you have multiple outages. And there are people who their outage time is not dictated by how much time it takes to repair the line.
Right.
It's dictated by how long does it take to get somebody there.
Yeah.
So typically from a consumer's or I don't know, any larger utility, again, you still don't directly attack Katie. You attack Safety and Sadie, and as a byproduct, if you can reduce the number of outages, you are going to respond to the outages that you still have quicker because you're not leaving some be.
That is one of the options, right? But again, you need to look at the whole thing. I mean, I get what you're saying, that for us, Katie is not a main driver, but it's still something that needs to be considered.
And I hope that you see that that's what we're doing. Is, we're not ignoring any of it. It's all taken as a whole. And I hope the results show that this isn't by happenstance. We didn't just luck into these numbers. This is a lot of work. This is culture. It's not.
Well, isn't that right around when Ryan started? I mean, I think I remember noticing that last year, that it wasn't like 2015, 16 or something when
I'd have to go back and look. I would say 16 or I thought it was 15 or 16.
Yeah, I think it was 15. He started like a year and a half before me.
Okay, yeah, because I remember thinking I know he was driving a lot of the culture. And I think has had an effect on this downward trend. And I think, Zach's job is when we can keep it down here, right? It might not as Charlie said, it might not be able to get a whole lot better. Once you're close to zero, there's not much you can do, right? So it's not necessarily continuing the downward trend, but keeping it at the low level.
There's something to be said about keeping it where it's at because
It's hard when it's down that low.
and you can easily get worse.
Yeah.
It's hard to get better. It's easy. And the key, even if they get worse, it's just a matter of understanding why.
Exactly.
It's not always, just because you have bad outage numbers doesn't necessarily mean that things went to hell in a handbasket. It means that we need to understand why.
Yeah. I know that transformer fire kind of messed up our numbers that year.
Yep, the transformer fires were probably in 1920 timeframe, 1920, somewhere around there.
Yeah, that would have been 20. Yeah, that's when I first moved back to Michigan, so.
Yeah, probably 1920 were the two lowest years, but.
2020.
Okay, let's move on.
All right. Any other questions on outage report? Again, similar to every other year we've done it, different results, same methodology. All right, moving on to the business MPPA business and credit risk assessment. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but want to touch on it. It's the data is a little bit old. Want to highlight that the information in your board packet is for fiscal year end 2023. So this is July 2022 through June 2023. I hope everybody had a chance to read this because I'm not going to go back through it. First three paragraphs kind of talk about why this is important. And then they get into a little bit of the methodologies. But one of the things that I think is important is this is not new to the board. It's new in this form. But the MPPA has historically done two different assessments that were kind of separate. There was a business model risk assessment and then a credit scorecard. This year, they've aligned both of those efforts, and they've leveraged the S&P kind of S&P methodology. So they've based this assessment in a standard methodology. And I think it's also important to note that S&P is the rating agency that we use for our underlying credit rating. And then also, if we ever take out debt, they will do a debt-specific bond rating as well. So just some big highlights. And again, this data is from fiscal year end 2023. MPPA is currently working on our year end 2024. So the fiscal year that ended last June, at the end of June last year. Moving forward, they're trying to really expedite how quickly they can get these reports out. So I think they're striving for about a 6-month turnaround after the end of the fiscal year, which you've got to give some time because they use the audit results. So we got to get past the audit, and then they pile in and do theirs. But it's worth touching on. Again, as the memo up top talks about, there's a financial profile score and an enterprise profile score that all rolls up into an overall score. From a financial profile perspective, some things I just want to highlight. Available reserves, it shows us as vulnerable. If you dug into the actual scorecard that they use, that they talked about the methodology, and MPPA talks about it in the summary. S&P doesn't normalize for size. So our credit rating is an A with a stable outlook with S&P, and available reserves, regardless of your size, for an A rating is between $50 and $100 million. That's completely unnecessary for us to have $50 million. We'd be taking money from our customers for absolutely no purpose. So I just want to provide a little context. It shows that we're vulnerable. That's not a reflection of our actual vulnerability, or our actual risk. It's a reflection of how S&P views us. It's also important to note from S&P's perspective, kind of like the outage statistics, there's not much we can do to get better, but there's a whole lot we can do to get worse. In every surveillance report that I've participated in with S&P, they basically said, we do not anticipate any scenario where we would increase your credit rating, but here's a list of all the things that could lower your credit rating. So just to provide perspective, that 2 out of 6 is not a number we can tackle. It's going to be that in order to get to the next level, we would have to have over $10 million in cash. It's just unnecessary to have 300 plus days of cash with the way that we operate. So
Do you know why they do that?
I don't. I don't remember what he said in here. But yeah, they don't adjust, or no, it's in here. Yeah, it doesn't consider the size of the utility. There's a one size fits all approach. Why, I think size is absolutely important because there's no scenario that would really push us to grow cash to $100 million. I mean, I cannot fathom the scenario that we'd have to face in order to say, all right, we need to grow to 10 years of cash. We could rebuild our entire system twice
Yeah.
for that. So I don't quite understand, but that's the methodology that we have. I can say from our surveillance reviews, it's not negatively impacted us because they do also look at days of liquidity. And the bucket that we're in or the A rating, they're looking for 91 to 150 days. So our cash management policy very much aligns with the S&P kind of where it's a good spot for us to be. Because I don't see needing 270 plus days of cash. And we can grow. Our target is about 140. We could grow to 150 or 160 and it not be a concern. But if we had 270 plus days of cash, we're probably sitting on too much cash at that point. Again, we'll roll here. Some of the enterprise stuff, again, diversity of sales. These are things that are tough to address. There's pieces that we show up as highly vulnerable. Again, we talk about this every year when we do the business model risk assessment. There's some recommendations that MPPA gives to address some of the risks that we have, customer concentration. It's just one of those things that I don't think we're going to trade a really big customer just to minimize some concentration. We'll take the concentration and we'll address it through some other means. So I think it's also important to highlight the different considerations that MPPA has there at the bottom. Key accounts program, it's in place. Competitive retail rates compared to surrounding and other competing electric utilities. We were routinely 25-ish%, and it's something that's highlighted in the S&P review. They always compare us to the state average. So to the surrounding utility, we have rate capacity. To the average utility in the state, or the average rate, we have rate capacity. And then retail rates routinely reviewed and updated. We do the cost of service and do the cost of service every 5 years and update the rates on an annual basis. Reflects the cost of service. Again, we are at cost of service at this point. They're unbundled. That was a move we did 2 years ago, Julie. I don't remember, a year and a half ago at this point. But we've unbundled our rates, established distributed energy resources rate. We have net billing rates in place, and then established a standby rate. We have a standby rate in place. So of all the things that MPPA recommends, all of them are actively in place. So I just want to highlight that we are doing the things that have been identified as opportunities to mitigate these risks.
This final sheet as a whole too, and you see that there's a AAA rating and extremely strong.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no reason for us to be there. I mean,
No. Well, if you,
it goes back to that days of cash that, but if you're really looking at the data, the fact that our size and we are strong, that is a very good thing. Like that is like, we're more than adequate even.
Yes.
It's like.
The A rating is a good rating for us. Again, as I mentioned, the S&P, we deal with the same people. There's not a scenario that takes us, according to S&P, there's not a scenario that takes us to a AA, right. Which is just one step up. We're an A. That's kind of our ceiling. Yep. And you can see why. For one, we're not going to have 35 to 50% residential. We have large industrial loads, and that's a really good thing for us. We're not going to have $100+ million in cash. It's just things that we're not going to do. We can hit some of the liquidity targets because, we may at some point tick over 150 days of cash. But again, it's not that
we're already looking at that. We know that we're falling in with
our
goals.
Yeah.
So it's like.
An A will get us favorable interest rates. unless the market's not favorable. But to the market, an A will get us favorable interest rates. But happy to answer any questions. But again, this data is a little old. I hope to bring back the updated assessments here in a couple months, hopefully.
Still probably would be a nice word, strong, and
I do not anticipate much change. Yeah, don't anticipate much change. One thing that will get identified and something that S&P has identified is, and it's something we're going to address this year, is a more formalized capital improvement plan. I don't think that we're lacking in our capital investments or even our planning, but we want to expand and go to a far more formalized capital improvement plan with a 5-year outlook that's updated every 3 years. Kind of it's a 5-year window that's shifted forward every 3 years. We're going to work with GRP this upcoming fiscal year on that. I would expect that to show up as a recommendation in one of these assessments. Didn't need it to be in here to know that we need to do it, but I've watched through the S&P surveillance reviews that we do every other year. There's, with inflation, with extended lead times, with some of those challenges associated with reinvesting in your system, they're placing a premium on having a firm, professional, longer range outlook on how you're going to accomplish that. So as we've watched them prioritize that more, and we've made those necessary adjustments, and they're just good. They're operationally a good thing to have.
Charlie, on that key customer account program, who's running that for you in-house now?
Lisa is.
Oh, Lisa, how's that going? Pretty good?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, it's not something that's an ongoing, everyday something. For the most part, our large industrial customers, we're another input. We're one of very many inputs. So we've got a great relationship, but a lot of it's just having a dialogue with them and them knowing who to reach out to if something comes up. Us knowing that Lisa can go reach out to them if we need something. So we have touch points couple times a year, just to see how things are going, if there's investments coming down, what's a priority for them. And then that trickles into more responsive things. Like we were working with one of the large industrial customers on carbon emissions. And that was a byproduct of having that key accounts relationship. They knew who to call, they knew who to reach out to, and then we brought in the resources to work with them. So there's a piece of it that's proactive and a piece of it that's just responsive.
Yeah, because I think I was on the board when we had Share started the thought, and I was just curious if that continued. And I'm quite sure you're in constant contact, or they're in constant contact with Lowell Power, what's going on as well too. So
oh yeah. Yeah, we keep, and as a smaller system, we keep those ongoing relationships. But that key accounts program is a more formal structure around it. But yeah, and Lisa's done the APPA key account certification. So she's taken some courses and has trained specifically kind of in that arena.
I think overall, you're saying that we really can't get to AA, but we're already halfway there. They've probably given us a 4.4 overall, right?
Yeah, but the things like they place a heavy premium on customer concentration in that residential risk.
Yeah.
Because so there's things that are out of our. Yeah, and well, to S&P, they want to see heavy residential because it's a diversified load and customers pay their. So they're looking at things from a different lens, I would say. So that's where that AA is tough. The big piece in AA is cash and customer concentration that are.
Yeah. But I say, given that we're still at 4.4 on their scale, that puts us halfway to AA, even though that doesn't mean anything as far as rating goes, but it's not like we barely squeaked in like at a 3.55. Right.
No, yes.
We're under than A.
Yes, we're solid. And I put a lot of premium on actual surveillance reviews from S&P. They get into more of, there's more commentary on how they weighted different factors. And they don't necessarily go in and say, because of this, it's an A. you can read between the lines, but there's a lot of the customer concentration stuff are things that they weight very heavily. Another thing that they weight heavily is our reliance on a single industry. We're heavily reliant on the food industry.
Yeah.
A lot of our largest customers are food based.
Yeah.
So that's a risk to them. And these are things that we're not out there proactively participating in economic development to get the right types of businesses to come to Lowell. The people who come here are the people that want to come here, or existing businesses that expand as well.
Yeah. But I mean, they show the breakdown, so it's, you know how much they weighted. But yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if this is directly from S&P or if this is MPPA's weighting.
Oh,
I'm not 100% sure.
okay. Well, whoever this is, it shows.
Because this is their weighted score. This is
That's the score times the weight.
yeah. But I'm not 100% sure if these are from S&P or they're derived from S&P, but I don't know if that's a firm. This is how they weight it. I don't know if S&P creates this type of thing and the output is the output. Good to go. All right. We will roll on to the next. So I mentioned this in the manager's report and somewhat from an MMEA perspective, also from our own light and power perspective, but we worked with UFS and I helped Dawn along the way. A couple of us managers helped Dawn and UFS along the way, but wanted to objectively quantify the value that we represent to our communities. Part of this is a byproduct of MMEA and MMEA developing a tool to use for lobbying or to talk with legislatures as we're trying to advocate for positive changes for us. Helping paint the picture of who we are and the value that we represent to our customers and to our communities has been very important. So as a byproduct, we look directly at Lowell Light and Power's impact. And anybody that was at the fall conference last year in Port Huron, which I don't think any board members were able to make that, but staff saw it. They used our numbers for the presentation, but I'm just going to jump right in. What is a community benefit analysis? Again, trying to really, that first bullet point talks about comparing to the surrounding utility. That is one piece of it. There's also other value streams that we represent that aren't necessarily a comparative basis. And that if we weren't here, somebody else would have similar contributions to the community, but not necessarily trying to say we're better or worse or anything. It's just truly trying to quantify what is the value that we represent, Light and Power represents to the community. And some of that value is derived through a comparative analysis. Specifically, reliability and rates are very much derived from a comparative analysis of us to the investor owned that surrounds us. Again, this is a snapshot. The value is for 1 year, but every year there are it's cumulative value streams that just continue to build. But we'll jump right in. So what are the pieces we looked at? That first bullet point talks about reliability. That's something that we hear a ton from our customers. Probably hear more than anything from our customers is how much they appreciate the reliability. So trying to quantify anecdotally what we hear from our customers was a big piece of this. The retail rates is something that's very important, but then there's also other value streams as far as contributions to the city's general fund through pilot. We volunteer in the community. There's certain services that we share with the city that helps drive down the cost to the customers and the citizens in the area. And then other thing that we looked at is, local employees. Our employees live here. They also spend their discretionary income here, or a piece of it. Again, these are things that if we didn't exist, somebody would still live here and somebody would still spend money. So not all, again, not all these are looking at us compared to the alternative. It's truly just what does light and power represent? And then obviously local control is important.
Just in that first bullet, given the discussion we had earlier.
The faster, yeah. It's-
Fewer outages.
To me, it's really about fewer outages than it is and faster restoration is important because if you look at, so you talk about Katy, ours is about 100 minutes. I have to look, the IOU that surrounds us, 400-500 minutes,
Yeah,
without major events.
right.
So that's something to consider. So it is faster, but I think to our point earlier, it's fewer that is fewer outages probably is where the majority of the value is.
Yeah, we'll just save a lot more time and money from
An outage
not
that,
even having. it.
yes, I would say there's a whole lot of savings from an avoided outage. But wanted to just jump right in. I think these numbers are pretty awesome. $2.3 million a year is what we represent to the community. Faster, so in the fast duration, about $800,000. If don't worry about the words, but if MED is major event days. So if you factored in the major event days, that just the reliability savings in 2023 was $6.8 million. That's a significant difference. We wanted to not pick and choose how we portrayed this data and wanted to look at it kind of what on normal circumstances. But I think one of the things that I've highlighted at MMEA is there are storms that impacted us that are included, that are not major event days, that get excluded for the IOU that's around us because it hits their major event threshold. So we chose to look at without major event days because it actually works in favor of the IOU. The real number of that year was $6.8 million, but it was also reflective of major storms. So just on a normal case, you get the restoration, the rate savings. UFS only looked at the residential rate savings. So there's additional savings on top of that for commercial industrial customers. And then general fund distribution, which is our pilot payment, that number has increased since. Local employment economic impact, there's some numbers there behind that as far as some estimates on how much UFS looked at various studies that looked at how much discretionary income is spent locally. There's numbers all over the place, but I think we landed on using 15%, which there were some studies that advocated for 30 and 40. So we tried to pick another conservative number. And even community sponsorships and shared services, it's volunteer work, it's benevolence, things like that. That number is more than likely much higher. That also includes shared services with the city, and we just now started actually tracking some of those numbers a little bit better. But we work very closely with the city, and anytime we're able to help out with a tree, taking down a tree or multiple trees, it's the citizens here in Lowell that ultimately win because we're not having to bring, or the city's not having to bring in a contractor and spend money. So there's absolutely more uncaptured value in that number as well. But the $2.3 million annual economic value is a pretty impressive number and pretty substantial for a utility that serves 3,000 customers.
Will the 40,000 to prom next year go in that much?
40,000 to from?
Aren't you giving 40,000 to prom for the payment back on utilities?
Let's talk afterwards. I'm not sure what you're talking about.
I thought a couple weeks ago, we had talked about.
Oh, PA 95. No. All right. No, I'm saying you're going, man, I'm not sure about 40 million or $40,000 to from. I'm not sure. Yes.
Okay.
No, that will be completely separate.
Okay.
Because that's a legal requirement. This is,
Okay.
but happy to answer any questions. This has been a long time in the works.
Well, would you consider presenting this to council?
on my radar.
Okay.
I actually need to actually.
And media.
Yeah. So what I want to do with this, some of our thoughts is I've enlisted some office staff. Julie is probably not going to get directly involved because she's got her hands full right now, but she has an awesome person on her team, Alyssa, who's fairly new to us, that is our communication specialist. So going to brainstorm with her on how do we get legs out of this. But the initial thought is obviously making the board aware of it today. A council presentation once the AV system is up and working in the council chambers, so we can put some.
I can use rotary system if you
Ah.
want.
I might, because I want the graphic up there when we do it. I like to, when I'm talking to council, I'd like to have this up there so we can kind of dive into it. And when you see 2.3, I think 2.3 million, it'll resonate more than just saying it. So, and then yes, I intend to reach out to Justin T. Meyer and ask him if he'd be willing to do an article on this. So,
So from an internal perspective, like how many employees do we have?
Julie, what's the number? 19. That's what I was going to say, but
So if you divide that by 19, that's the extra benefit their each employee provides, right? Their efforts are adding that much to the community. That's what 100,000 person.
I guess the other
sure.
is
I like your math, round numbers.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
2 million, 20 people. I can do that.
and the others. So I like this slide. I would like it better if it had UFS someplace on there so that
Well, it's a slide, and that's some of the things that's a piece of a slide that is intended, but I'm probably not going to use all of the slide when I talk to city council. So I will make sure to get.
my point is, I don't want, I want somebody that's looking at this to have an understanding that this was done by an outside service, by a professional that does these things. It wasn't just Lowell Light and Power that picked these numbers out of the air.
No, and I think so. So when you talk about what goes into this, there's some of this. So restoration benefits. This is based on what's called the ICE calculator, which is interruption cost estimator, developed by Lawrence Berkeley National Lab in partnership with IOUs. They're actually in the process of rolling out ICE 2.0, and DTE is one of the major sponsors. So what they use the ICE calculator for is to justify capital improvements. Now, if you can say, hey, from a reliability standpoint, if I fix this, it's worth $1 million and it's only going to cost me $500,000 to fix. It's a ROI calculator, basically, is how the IOUs are using it. And they're actually using it to justify investments. They're using it to justify future investments. But when you talk about credibility, I think you highlight a really good point that it was, I work closely with Dawn on this, and Dawn was very aware of the need for this to be defendable and not questionably. So how do you bring validity to it? The ICE calculator. It's not me, it's not you, it's not this board deciding what reliability looks like. It's an academic objective evaluation of reliability. It's interesting, Dawn actually, in order to understand exactly what the ICE calculator was and to talk about how we intended to use it, she actually talked to the head person that developed it from Lawrence Berkeley Lab and got his endorsement. And he said, wow, this is fantastic. These numbers are great. We didn't think about using it this way, but you're 100% right in how you're quantifying reliability. So to your point, defensibility, reliability number is defensible. Rate savings, MPPA calculates this every single year as a tool for us to manage. And then you get into some of the other numbers, local employment, economic impact, we chose a very conservative number based on the different studies that she had tracked down. And then the rest of them are firm numbers. Even down to your restoration, that's a calculated number. Your residential rate savings is a calculated number. Your general fund distribution is just directly pulled from our audits. Community sponsorships and shared services, we're tracking those through the benevolence and doing a little bit better job. So every piece of this is actually erring towards the conservative side to make it more defendable if somebody were to question where'd this come from. So I think you bring up a great point. Any other questions? All right. On to the next fun PowerPoint. Maybe if it works. So moving on to the Public Act 229, energy waste reduction. So just want to hit a high level overview and just start the conversation. There's some decision points that we're going to run across this year and then implementation starting in 2026. But just a little background. PA 229 was part of the package of energy related bills that was passed in late 2023. So same package of bills that gave us our renewable energy requirements and our clean energy requirements. We also got an update to the state's energy waste reduction law. There's been numerous iterations of this law. It's been called energy waste reduction. It's been called energy optimization. Historically, we were included in the MPSC's regulatory oversight. So we were required to participate. EWR requirements for municipals did sunset at the end of 2021, the calendar year. So it's been a couple years now, but we, as a utility, continue to offer those programs. When you talk energy waste reduction, it's incentives for energy efficiency upgrades, changing out lights, putting in VFDs, recycling, our appliance recycling program. All those fall under the energy waste reduction. So we get a new law. A lot of words. I'll hit them, kind of highlight high points. So we must achieve an equivalent savings of 1.5% of the total energy sales. So that's there's deemed savings. It's all calculated savings based on what's called the MEMD, which I don't even remember what the acronym stands for, but it's a big database that basically says if you change out or if you buy an Energy Star refrigerator, you can claim so many kilowatt hours in savings. The old law is 1%, or was 1%. That 0.5% increase doesn't seem like much, but when we're spending $120,000 to $130,000 a year to get just 1% savings, it's a 50% increase. That adds up quick. So we, in the memo, I talk about highlighting some of the challenges we've identified. Hitting that 1.5% savings goal is a major challenge, partially because, as I mentioned, this MEMD, this database on claim savings, is all but it's essentially eliminating all lighting. So lighting accounts for, I think, about 60% of all of our savings. So to move the goalpost further away, they're not just moving the goalpost further away, they're narrowing the goalpost. There's less that we can include, or not, I don't say less we include. A major opportunity for claim savings is going away, and the target is expanding. So that 1.5% is a major challenge.
Would you say though, like looking at our residential sales, would you say that like energy efficiency is really reflected in this?
Not through energy waste reduction. I think it's new construction efficiency. And that's one of the problems that we
old appliances too, though? I mean, in.
I'm speculating. I think it's noise in the overall.
Okay.
That piece of it, where I think we see the most, and it's also a challenge with the 1.5%, is where are you going to find savings in a brand new home? Where are you going to find, if every light in my house, every single light's an LED. I get it, but every appliance is new. There's it's all the new standards. So when you look at our specific customer base and how many new homes we're serving,
Right.
they're all contributing to the need, to that 1.5% need, and there's no opportunity for savings there, or very minimal, because who else is going to spend a bunch of money renovating a house that they just built?
So I guess I'm gathering it has to be business, like commercial, industrial level, that we need to find these.
Well, historically, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but a large percentage of our actual kilowatt hour savings has come from commercial industrial. Challenge we have with the law, I don't go into here, is the law specifically says we're supposed to keep funds collected from a class in that class. So they don't want us cross-subsidizing, which I'll get to where the math stops mathing at a certain point. And the math stops mathing with this law at a certain point. So the big thing is the law actually calls for us to develop an EWR plan. I specifically call it out because it's something that if we implement our own program, the board will have to approve the EWR plan before we file it with the MPSC. And that plan is really the tool to compliance. It's your roadmap to compliance. So it includes, I didn't have all the things it included, but it's how are you going to get your savings? How are you going to collect the money? All the different pieces of how you're going to get to this 1.5%, along with 25% of our entire budget has to go to low income, not 25% of our residential budget. This is where the math stops mathing. If 25% of our residential budget, or 25% of our overall budget, has to go to a very small subsection of our residential customers, it just doesn't work. We'd have to collect, because without firm numbers, we're thinking that this is going to cost us about 5% of our gross sales. So this is about a 5% rate increase to make this happen. And that's probably on the low side. So if you take 5%, 5% of 10 million is what, 500,000. Only about 25% of our customers, our revenue is residential revenue. So now you take that 500,000 and now you're down to $125,000 that's collected from the residential customers, but you have to take 25% of that overall budget and put it to low income. There's a potential that we have to spend $100,000 a year on low income. I don't think it could get to that. I'll do some quick math. We have about 2,500 residential customers. And according to the school systems, I think we're about 30% low income, just using some readily available statistics. So if you look at the actual number of customers that are available to spend that money with, we start to run into some very big challenges, especially when you're not supposed to cross subsidize. So
what's the cost of not doing it?
I don't know. I would have to look at the actual law. You're opening yourself up to regulatory oversight from the MPSC, which is a slippery slope, because I will say that the package of laws, we are not regulated by the MPSC, but every new law that gets passed grants the MPSC just a little bit more regulatory authority over us.
Okay.
MPSC has regulatory authority over us over renewable energy, clean energy, voluntary green pricing, EWR, assistance funds, low income assistance funds. So that's a slippery slope. And I think, we talk about it in the valuation. One of the things that makes public power so great is that the decisions are made right here by you five who know what the community needs. The more oversight the MPSC has, the less it takes, or the more it takes out of your hands and puts in Lansing's hands. And it takes local control and apply, you peel away local control.
We wanted to participate in the program because, yeah, we want
So
the power in our.
this is a pro, so
We both, but it's quite possible that we may not be able to meet these goals.
So we'll keep going, because one of the decisions we have to make is how do we attack this? So in that 25%, if we're below that 25%, we have to make annual increases to get to 25% by 2029. So there's a little bit of a runway, but in 2029, 25% of our total budget the math doesn't look any better 3-4 years down the road. If a utility doesn't want to implement their own program, we do have the option of participating in the state of Michigan implemented EWR program called, I forgot the name now. I'm forgetting it. It's UE utility. I can't think of what it is now, but the name's irrelevant. It's a state-run program. The state put out an RFP. They hired a company. MPPA on our behalf is getting an estimate. So I don't think these numbers are attainable initially. I think I don't think they're obtainable year over year over year. And that's the important thing is it's not, we need to hit 1.5% savings. We have to hit 1.5% this year, and we have to hit 1.5% next year, and we have to hit 1.5% the next year. And every year we also have to spend 25% on low income. There are some major challenges, and with the removal of lighting, there are no guarantees that we can even throw money at it and achieve this. We run into serious problems trying to give away incentive dollars. Lisa works very hard to just get people to submit applications to the point where she will go out, sit down with a customer, handhold them while they fill out the application, and all they have to do is collect a couple documents. And we can't get them to collect a couple documents to collect a check. It's a challenge. So that giving away the money, identifying the projects, getting customers to do their piece of it, the reduction of the ability to claim lighting savings, and the need to spend a very large percentage of our overall budget on a very small percentage of our customers are all some of the challenges that we've identified. And I'm not typically one to say, let's hand it to the state and let them do it. But I think in this circumstance, in this situation, we should at least look at that option, because if we participate, if the state's chosen plan and program doesn't live up to their own standards, for one, we're in a boat with a lot of other people.
Right.
And how can the state come down too hard on their own program? Because I think there's going to be a lot of utilities that really struggle to hit 1.5%.
Just for skim and scan some of this stuff, though, it looks like distributed energy programs and that kind of thing can be added into the mix.
So the last bullet point, the new law does allow for some expanded compliance opportunities, but there's very little direction around them. There's an efficient electrification measure. So you can convert energy input into a lawnmower, do your conversion to kilowatt hours. And if you can mow your yard for an equivalent energy of less than the alternative, you can count savings there. That one's a tough one. There's some programs out there. And then also we do have the ability to meet up to 10% of our EWR requirements through renewable energy credits, which if you look at our average cost of a megawatt hour saved, has been I need to do the math, 16 to 20, call it $20 a megawatt hour, for savings. You can buy a rec for $2. There's an opportunity there from a cost saving standpoint. But yes, there are, and then the low income does also, the other piece of this, it's another challenge, is everything has to pass a cost effectiveness test. You don't get to count it if it's not cost effective. So there's some challenges. Tomorrow we have our state legislative rally, and this is going to be a huge topic. I struggle with the idea of a legislature's arbitrarily deciding 25% of our entire budget has to go to maybe 300 customers, 400 customers, $100,000 spread between. And it's tough, and that assumes that every low income customer comes and says, I'll take what you're offering. Realistically, we're going to reach 10% of them. So we're going to give away $100,000 to 30 customers.
But,
That's tough.
well, I think I guess, maybe I don't have a complete understanding, but if this program doesn't have an ending date, and again, new developments, things happen all the time, but going through and taking somebody's home and making it, what I want to say, changing appliances, doing everything to make it more energy efficient. I mean, it gets to a point where how much more can you do to a home? How much more insulation can you put in a home? How much more, they're excluding the lights. I mean, so again, I see it as just very difficult. You can go out and hit a lot of low incomes in the first year or two, maybe, but at that point, they're still low income, but you've done everything you can to maximize the efficiency of that home.
The fatal flaw of this program is exactly what you hit on. It's a cumulative year over year. So at some point, what energy is there to save? Especially when every year your target goes up, but your customer base doesn't necessarily go up. As far as your target base, your customers go up, but there's not a target in Stony Bluff or Harvest Meadows, but they're all contributing to the need to save more. And every year save more. And then next year there's going to be more homes built that's going to add to it. Next year there's going to be more. And there's very minimal opportunity to go find savings. So and then also, so at what point, what savings are you going after? I think this was a law that there's no science behind it. And that's my frustration with it, is there was no science that identified a problem that this is solving. The other thing I'd say is, all right, so from a low income perspective, are we better off putting $100,000 into helping a handful of low income customers? Or are we better off giving $100,000 to an aid group or an assistance group and saying, go help low income with their bills? Because just because you change out an appliance for a customer doesn't mean that their bill is affordable to them all of a sudden. I think that's what they're trying to get at from the 25% low income, is they're trying to make low income bills more affordable. But is there a material difference through the spend that reflects in the actual problem that they're trying to address? And I don't think so. Craig, you had something?
No. Actually, I feel like I kind of got you off track. It seems like you maybe had some more down the road that is gonna.
No, this is the frame pretty much. I mean, it's
for right now.
Yeah, for right now. So next steps, you can see we're in this MPPA. This is taken from MPPA. So this is the timeline. So this was a webinar that MPPA did. So right now, MPPA is in the process of just vetting vendors to run a clean energy program, energy waste reduction program for member utilities through MPPA. What? Go ahead.
No, so if you have to spend X amount, I just see these companies that are going to, are they gonna be, we're gonna contribute X amount of dollars to these companies to address this.
So
And they're the ones that are gonna get wealthy on it, and the recipients are gonna be.
So that's one of the factors and potentially in that makes considering the state program an option. Is right now Franklin Energy is the third party provider that does our commercial industrial program through MPPA. It's the vendor that MPPA chose or recommended to the board. The board of commissioners actually approved it, but I don't know exactly where their admin fees are right now, but I want to say it's around the 30% mark. So you look again, this is cumulative over time. 30% of $500,000 is a lot of money that doesn't go towards the end goal of achieving. Yeah, it's going to a for-profit company, and granted, they're providing a service, and I don't expect them to do it for free, but it is a factor that we need to consider of how much of the money that we're collecting from our customers is ultimately going for the intended purpose, and how much of it is going for admin fees. It was a topic of conversation with From with the program they're going to run is what are admin fees. So it's something to consider because that's a lot of money. If 30% of a $500,000 adds up really quick. And even if the numbers come in at 400,000 or we can do something for cheaper. But
So Mike, is the legislature not seeing this, or is it just, they're just trying, oh, this is a feel-good story, we're gonna help out, so Molinar, again, Alberts, all these, it just, as it's being, it seems pretty simple, and they're just making it.
this is going to be a tough one, especially when the state estimates to achieve 1% savings for the state program, Energy or Efficiency United. I knew I'd come up with it. Efficiency United's the state program. What'd they say? I'd have to look back. I don't have it up. 3.5 to 4% of gross sales is their estimate for 1% savings. And that's before they removed lighting from the database. So really it's speculative on what the state's going to come back with. But part of what information the board needs is what that cost would be to participate in the state program. MPPA is seeking those quotes on behalf of all the participating members. But in order to participate in the state program, we have to, this is another problem with the law, we have to make a decision by July 1. So we have to give a 6-month notice to the state whether or not we're going to participate, because the program doesn't actually start until January 2026. It's also why I'm bringing it initial conversation today. It does not leave many board meetings between now and making potentially a $500,000+ decision. And the other thing I want to highlight is right now our rates support about we collect from our EWR charge about $100,000 a year. So if we have to go if that represents roughly 1%, a little less than 1% of our gross sales, if we have to get to 5 or 6%, we need to raise rates 5 or 6% in order to do that. This is a direct pass through from our customers to us to the state. I plan on addressing that with the legislatures tomorrow. That, even in a pandemic, the biggest rate increase I've ever been a part of was the 6.5% that we did a couple years ago. And since then, you average it out over more time, you know, this is a substantial rate increase for our customers. And when you compound it on the increasing price of power in general and other regulatory compliance requirements, I have concerns over the bill impacts.
Is this municipals only? Is consumers, DTE, they're all,
Yeah,
they're having to,
all utilities, co-ops, munis, investor owns are all subject to this.
What do you say?
and they're not screaming and hollering?
Let's talk offline.
Okay.
There's a good reason why they're not. To be determined. I don't think I think we should consider the state program, but not knowing, for one, it's contrary to almost every other thing that we do. We'd rather keep things in-house. We'll keep it local. We'll do it local, just like we did with the FROM program. We'll keep it local. We'll beat the state. We should at least consider the state program. I think we can't do that until we have an estimate. But right now, the major challenges are 1.5% savings with a reduction of what we can claim savings, 25% to low income, and just some of the other unknowns as far as using RECs, what health and safety programs would look like, what an efficient electrification program would look like. These are things that we're going to need to rely on outside resources in order to help meet that. So what resources become available will definitely influence any recommendation that I would bring to the board. But I would expect at least a conversation next month with a decision point coming in June, whether at the June board meeting, whether or not we want to participate in the state program. And that's the other challenge is this first year, MPPA may not, if you look here, MPPA may not have their vendor selected. They won't know what their program looks like because this is a program that some of your bigger utilities will do strictly in-house, but almost every utility participates in some fashion with an MPPA program. So our current program, we do all Lisa does all the residential stuff, and then we partner with MPPA and Franklin Energy on all the commercial and industrial stuff.
Is this a decision that we make that's going to be multi-year, or will we be able to vote yearly on?
So that's the other challenge. The state program is a 2-year commitment. So other than that, I'm not sure if we do it ourselves in year 1, if we can go to year 2. I was focusing more the other way. If we sign on to the state program, it definitely is a 2-year commitment. So yeah, it's not even just a 12-month decision that we have to make by July 1. It's a 2-year decision.
Okay. Okay,
More to come?
more to come.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, more legal challenges. All right, on to the rest of the informational items. And probably going to, last month, I think we kind of just hit on any questions. A couple things I'll highlight, but not really anything in sales data unless, or this first graphs, unless anybody has any questions. Very much similar trends. We're more than halfway through the year now, so we're starting to see some trends in, or we're not starting to, there's trends there, and we're pretty much just following them. Overall sales continue to grow. Industrial sales, again, everything's kind of trending like we expect, and even the residential is sitting nicely in that clump of lines. So pretty much what we would expect from a sales perspective. It's weird. Saw quite a bit of downward pressure on rates the last 2 months. That's largely tied to the PCA. Cash is healthy and growing, even with the internally restricted. We're still exceeding that 140-day kind of artificial target, but we're in a healthy spot. I don't like how that does that. Come driving fast. But we'll roll, again, this is a new data point up here that we're reporting on, and that's the unassisted payments. So those are payments that we don't actually have to engage with a customer. They're automatic, they're IVR, they're the customers handling their payment through a self-service channel. Again, PCA, I talked about big downward pressure in PCA, and a lot of that is attributed to removing some of the working capital requirements from MPPA from the calculation. But yeah, power supply costs are actually down. So we're seeing quite a bit of downward pressure on the PCA. With that, Zach, you got a big one.
Yeah, I got one outage, up on
Gulliford. I was trying to get there for you.
Gulliford, tree came down, top of the tree just at the primary and got into the neutral. They had to cut it off and throw it back in.
This is one of those shorter outages. That is one of those things. Hey, if we stop doing it, but this was just a tree.
We would have never cut it.
No, this was in. It's a shame. Ryan Hanchek responded. He sent a picture. It wasn't even sitting on the primary. It was resting on the neutral by the time it slapped the primary on the way down, and it was probably only that big around. Maybe. I mean, it was not a big tree. Maybe was it a little bigger?
It was probably this big,
Oh.
but it was just the top, so it was all the little branches on the top.
Yeah.
Probably a 60-foot, 70-foot tree, and just the top of it.
That's why it looks so small. Is what you can see in the picture was just the top of the tree.
We're never gonna cut it.
No, but it was a quicker outage. That's a lot of outage minutes, all under 100. So that'll help bring that Katie down. All right, that's that. Income statement, with the PCA revenue declining, we actually did have a negative net income, which is not unexpected by any means. Month wasn't budgeted for one, but again, all in all for the year, we're in a good spot. Large power supply continues to be over budget, and so does revenue. So one of the things that's tough here is a lot of that revenue is tied, about $240,000 of that revenue is tied to replacing working capital requirements from MPPA. So that expense is just a cash hit. It doesn't reflect anywhere in the income statement, but it does flow into the PCA, and the PCA is booked as revenue. So that's not a whole picture of that $440,000 in sales revenue that's over and above. A piece of that is from elevated PCA revenue that was associated with that working capital collection, that those expenses are not reflected in purchase power expenses. Any questions on the income statement? All right, easy enough then. Capital projects, again, we're continue just to if you look at kind of month spend, some minor IT stuff with some computers and just moving forward. Voltage conversion projects, guys are still working over on the east side. Some facility improvements. Those are the $1,600 is just some small pieces here. What hasn't hit the capital budget is we did. It's included in the budget, but we've refinished the floor in here, refinished the floor in Casey's office. And then if you walk out in the hall or out in the main area there, take a look. We painted in there. So got rid of that old ugly green stripe and the white that faded to yellow. or manila colored. So it looks good.
And cement block that was never painted.
Yeah, the cement block that was never painted, that's painted. That was the big piece of it. So now we got a big, now it's all white in there. It's very bright. So that will, those expenses will reflect next month. And then system expansion budget, I don't even know where we worked on that one, honestly. But it's either up in Harvest Meadows, Stony Bluff, or North Washington. That's what I thought. Yeah, the 11 homes that are going in on North Washington up along the river.
Cemetery.
Yeah, past the cemetery. So that's what that's reflecting. So any questions on capital budget? Again, we're
So
pretty far into the year, so.
I don't have any questions on this, but I'm gonna ask it right now. So when are the due dates for the initial budget to the city council, and when's
We've already sent it.
okay,
Once the board approves the draft budget's sent to the city. The draft budget's been sent to the city, including the capital budget. I know there's something happened in the past where we didn't send the capital budget,
Right.
but
That's
capital
right.
budget and everything's been sent to the city. And then once the board approves the final budget, next month, we'll send a copy of the final budget.
Okay.
So that gets sent the day after it's approved typically.
all right. I just always have to ask, just because
Nope.
before your time,
Oh,
we didn't.
it wasn't quite done
It
right.
wasn't done in the time that the charter says it has to be.
Harry, I haven't seen the next Monday's agenda, so I couldn't tell you if it's on then or it's gonna be first week in May.
I know Mike sent out something about the
Okay,
budget
just as long as
workshop.
we've sent it on.
So I think the city council's budget workshop is,
5th, from 1 to 6.
I want to say, I think so. I think it's still a little bit out. I've got it on my calendar, but I don't have it up, so.
1 to 6 on the 5th.
But
I just want to make sure we're doing
Yeah,
our
Yep.
part.
from 1 to 6.
and I'm sure I'll be there.
Thank
I
you.
think they're having dinners, probably have two.
Hey, I wouldn't complain. I'll get booted
Stay.
then. I'll get booted. I usually come in, do my thing and let you all dig into all the other city business. All right, if you're ready to move on, we'll just keep rolling, Perry. I'll hand it over to Zach for distribution report.
Stay by my report.
Awesome. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Casey?
By my report.
I'm going to pause on Casey's a little bit. We're going to make a little bit of changes next month, but one of the things I just wanted to highlight is Casey's report is changing away from a generation report to a generation and engineering report. I'm going to do my best to spread Casey as thin as possible. No, absolutely not. Trying to not. But Casey, I announced to the board, Casey's taken on a formal system engineer role in addition to his generation superintendent role. So you'll notice some additional topics that aren't necessarily generation based. And I just wanted to highlight some of that. The meeting with Verdantis, attending the APPA E&O conference. A lot of those are even the SCADA work. A lot of that stuff is tied to his expanded responsibilities with system engineer, the system engineer role.
So you're saying you should write 2 reports?
We'll do a combined. We'll let him do a combined report if you're all right with it. Oh yeah, we'll get there. We'll definitely get there. I mean, we might as well. He had a good time. It was he walked in the door and the first thing he said was, he walked in this overhead door here and said, "Wow, it's clean in here." So they did a heck of a job getting geared up. Yeah, that's what it's, and it's not uncommon. Eagle, our regulatory, was it Energy Great Lakes and whatever, the DEQ. But the regulators come walking in and they say the same thing too. And that's an unannounced visit. So,
When I was at Lansing visiting everybody, it's clean, but not like ours. You can eat off the floor, I was telling them, and they, you can eat off this floor, but I recommend you not.
Yeah. Cool. And then Julie,
Yeah, I'm gonna stand by my report as well.
awesome.
Bravo.
All right. Only thing I want to highlight, I don't have much to highlight. A couple things I do want to touch base on briefly. Up here, power supply front, Brent Woods Solar, fired up, hit commercial operation date. Whitetail is close, and Hart is still whatever it's doing. We're not counting on that one anymore. We'll see what happens. But new power supply, seeing some new renewable projects come online, which is great to see. We are, from a power supply standpoint, gearing up for Campbell 3 to shut down at the end of next month. And we're still lined up to have Bell River Unit 1 taken offline for refueling at this fall. So there's a lot of movement in our power supply. And coming off of Pat's visit last month, there's a lot of focus on thermal resources right now, and I want to make sure that everybody heard Pat clearly in layman's terms. MPPA has taken a very definitive stance that we have to add natural gas resources to our generation portfolio in order to meet capacity needs. They may not be energy assets, they may not run very often. Think of the units back here, but we have to add natural gas resources from a capacity standpoint. MPPA is in the aggregate is going to be short capacity between 80 and 130 megawatts by about 2030, 2031, depending on the season. We have to replace that. So I bring that up in the context of solar because you haven't heard many new solar deals come to the board recently. And that is, Pat alluded to quite a bit of it, or actually was very honest last month, and the price of solar deals has gone up almost 100%. And they don't provide the same reliability characteristics, and we cannot meet our capacity needs through renewables. It's just the facts. We can't do it. So Casey and I are working with MPPA. MPPA is looking at behind the meter generation, just like Pat had mentioned last month. And Casey and I last week did a little walk around out here and started brainstorming on opportunities to potentially add some natural gas generation on site here. So just want to keep the board in the loop on all those. I think it's something that if the opportunity presents itself, we should consider it. It's hard to add natural gas to your generation portfolio when you have legal requirements to eliminate it. But as Pat highlighted last month, that's an energy law, not a capacity law. These units will produce so little actual energy that there should be opportunities to offset any output that or any output in energy through renewable offsets, basically. But we have to be considering natural gas options for our power supply.
Sure.
All right. Want to kick that dead horse, but want to highlight it. APPA National Conference is going to be held in New Orleans, June 9th through 11th. Flights are terrible. I still haven't booked my flight, but there's not a lot of great options. Sent an email out after the last board meeting that provided a little bit more details on one of the reasons I need to go. We're not supposed to talk about it publicly, so I will abide by APPA's wishes. But if you're not sure what I'm talking about, check back about a month ago in your email, and you'll see a random email from me. Wanted to update the board that after the ESTA update last month, I did execute a letter of agreement with the union. So we are on one set of rules for Earned Sick Time Act for all employees. And everybody has been granted or allocated their the 25 hours that it was going to take for us to be compliant this year. So we're in a good spot from an ESTA perspective, and we've brought the union under the same guidelines. I've not taken the Stony Bluff easement that the board approved last month to city council. Timing didn't work out as far as getting materials to Mike, and then I was out of town for the first meeting in May. Whatever month it is, I don't know. Yeah, that one. April. Yes, I've missed the first meeting this month.
Right, Mike wasn't there.
Yeah, perfect. But I will be there next Monday, and we'll present the easement next Monday and ask for city council approval of that. Talked a little bit about it, but I wanted to highlight the mutual aid. Not only, I think Zach said we had 4 calls for mutual aid at least, and probably grew since you told me 4.
I think it was 6. Was the final number.
Final number 6. It was a tough day. So while the crews were in California, 2 guys went and helped Tri-County over in the Portland area. They kept close to home. We knew that if something came up, we could have them turn around and head back this way and take care of us. But then when the crew from California got back, Ryan Hanachek and Mark Drobe went up to Harbor Springs. That was a Tuesday.
Yep.
Friday, they asked for more help. Or Thursday, later in the week, they asked for more help, and we sent Rally Shade up there.
Yeah.
So I talked to somebody from their utility, I think their operations manager. That place was wrecked. If you plan on going up north for fall colors, pick a different year. There won't be enough trees left, is what it sounds like. Harbor Springs said that their DPW spent 3 straight days with front end loaders just pushing stuff out of the road. Their employees were running out of gas and their chainsaws trying to cut their way into the office. I think Zach told me that there was one guy who spent 3 days trying to cut himself out of his driveway. Their power line's the size of your forearm, and nobody builds a system designed to hold up that much weight.
Meaning ice.
Ice, yeah, sorry, ice. Yeah, the wire was that big. The ice was.
It's all the way around. My daughter has a place up there, and they won't have power till the end of the month.
Yeah.
Cool. Cabin, but it's like their home.
Yeah. I want to say, sing the praises of Harbor Springs and the community. I can attest that after 3 days, people's patience and understanding goes down drastically. It's an exponential decline is what it is. It's almost a cliff at a certain point. We had no negative interactions. Our guys had no negative interactions the entire time they were there. The community was extremely appreciative. They're well taken care of, and they were safe. So that's important. But wanted to highlight mutual aid. Get to some pictures there. Yeah, budget. Talk about the budget. Everything will go to the city, or has already gone to the city. Once the final budget's approved, it'll go there. Also want to highlight, we spent a couple days, 2 full days with another software vendor in the office. This is going to be a heavy lift, and we're short staffed now. So just want to highlight some of the progress we're making there. And I want to get to pictures, and we'll talk about Congressman Molinar visit in the pictures. So I thought it was interesting. I've met with Congressman Molinar the last 3 years in DC. We always have really great conversations. He's a real down-to-earth guy and very engaged, asks lots of questions. But we've not been able to get him in district. We've really advocated and tried to tell him, come see us here. Got back from the legislative rally this year, and his chief of staff or chief of operations reached out to Katie almost immediately and said he's going to be in district, and we'd like to line up a day where Congressman Molinar comes to Lowell and to Portland, the 2 public power utilities in his district, and his district is enormous.
The second district is here.
Yeah, it runs all the way up to Ludington, may go further north than that, may go up to Empire.
To Kalamazoo.
Yeah.
All the way up.
Yeah.
It's a huge district.
It is an enormous district. So had a great visit. We gave him one of the rodeo shirts as just as kind of a memento. He immediately took it, threw it on, and said, "Let's take some pictures." And he was really engaged. Luckily, it's always hard to explain a lineman rodeo or line worker rodeo to somebody that doesn't quite understand what line work is or doesn't have a true appreciation for what it is. So I told him, I said, it's kind of like the lumberjack competitions, but for line work. And he knew somebody that participated in lumberjack competitions. So he drew a very quick connection and had an appreciation for what it is the guys do. So we came down, started in the office bright and early, about 7:30, I think. Yeah, he showed up early. It was just him and one staff member. Toward the office, I wanted to highlight the robotics team and wanted to highlight some of the non-electric related, not electric, some of the additional things that we do outside of delivering electrons to customers. Because I think that local connection and being part of the community is really what is something that's foundational to who we are and foundational to public power in general. The picture to the left is just us in DC. Again, he always makes time for us, and I do appreciate him. While we sat waiting for him, there was 5 other groups that came through and met with staffers. There's one other group there, one other person that was meeting directly with the congressman. So the fact that he gave us time, he appreciates public power, I think. We also came down here and toured stuff, and he was Johnny on the spot. He saw the Mobart chipper, and he said, "That's in district. I've been to that plant. Thank you for supporting Michigan companies." He worked the pole. He looked down and said, "Hastings, they're in district too." So he was drawing a lot of connections. It was really a good visit. We toured the office, looked at all the equipment. He was fascinated with the equipment. Showed him some of the stuff that we do with the schools, the demo poll, talked about 4th grade field trips and some of the other community activities that we do. Talked a lot about generation in Casey's area. Did a test crank on the turbine, which was really neat to hear. It sounds like a jet engine firing up. It's pretty neat. So really, really productive visit. And then I want to thank the guys. Who was it? Jeremy was out there.
And then they were all out there.
They were all out there, but there's
one of 3.
There were 3 of them. Ryan Hanchek was out there.
Jeremy and Slim, I think it was.
Yeah. So they were all out there, and I asked if Congressman had never seen a lineman climb. So what's that? Or Katie. Yeah, Katie hadn't seen it. So if you're not familiar, sorry, the female in the picture is Katie Abraham. She's executive director of the Michigan Municipal Electric Association. Katie is awesome. She is absolutely fantastic. But yeah, Jeremy did Hurtman rescue. So it wasn't just that he climbed up the pole and came down. So we had a chance to talk about safety. Oh, it was garbage.
That's what you guys were looking out the window at?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. I was going to say that you can see him out there. We went into that room and looked out. Oh yeah, you can see the Hurtman dummy is up at the top of the pole, and then the 3 guys are out there. So
the picture on the right there, they were absolutely shocked that we still dug holes by hand.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
That blew their mind that we dug holes by hand.
No, the D1 digger.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a really good visit. I followed everybody out to Portland, and we sat in Portland and talked with Congressman a little bit more and toured their facility. So it really was a good opportunity. I have no doubt that when I meet with him next year, he'll remember Lowell. I don't care if he remembers me. I want him to remember Lowell. And if we ask for something or need something, I'd like him to have. It's great that he'll have that connection to Lowell.
He sent a handwritten thank you note.
Yes. I know he sent a handwritten good luck message to the rodeo team.
Yep.
Yeah. It was very, very cool. He knows how to play the game. He knows how to play the game. He's of all the elected officials I've dealt with, he's a really good one to deal with.
Yeah.
But, all right, moving on, a couple other things in the picture. We had a busy month. Want to thank this crew, Julie, Ryan, and Zach for participating in the high school's career day again. This was new last year. Last year was the first year, right? 2 years ago was the first.
Last year's the first year we went to the school.
Okay, okay. So
It's a
started it before COVID, but then stopped and then,
Yeah,
yes.
so this is the second year we've participated, I think, at least 2 years in a row. But it's always great. Took a list and are looking at potentially doing some ride-alongs with some of the upperclassmen to give them a little exposure. So trying to do our part to help the pipeline of future linemen. So that was really good. The expo was great. This picture here, I really threw Tony under the bus. Guy showed up with a camera and wanted to film something, and I said, Tony's the man you need to talk to. But Tony does a great job. Julie does a great job. The expo is always a really good time. I usually stand around and talk to the city council a lot of it. It's great to catch up with city council. Tons of people there. If you weren't able to make it, this year was a great year. The note on the left, we were handing out, our giveaway this year was highlighters and Post-it notes, and somebody wanted to just stop by and leave us a message. So, it's always awesome.
Yesterday, no, it was this morning, Shannon said that they were clicking people, they got it to 3,000, but other people came in other doors. So it was well over 3,000 people at
Wow.
the expo, which was.
Yeah, it was very busy.
Yeah, it was a great event. They did a really good job. And it's always fun. We had a good time. Tony, Julie, and I Tony's there. Seems like, I think the three of us are there most years, in and out. Lisa's usually there. Lisa was out of town. Lisa does a great job with it. Lisa had us all ready to go, and all we had to do was show up and throw stuff out on the table.
I had to be in Kalamazoo for a Rotary presidential training.
Okay.
So, quick question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Scroll a little bit, that photo on the bottom right,
That?
is that our truck?
No.
Is that the our-
Hmm?
No.
No, that's a stock photo.
That would be really cool when it was one.
So
I know we have some good ones. But
if you have your shirt, if you look at the picture on the front of the shirt, it's a silhouetted type picture similar to that. Those are our guys. It's an awesome picture. I even asked that.
On the back.
Sorry, I thought Rally was on the back.
Riley's on the back.
And then
the front was Brett.
Brett, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he's not here anymore, but we wish Brett the best. He left on great terms, and you can't tell it's him anyways. It's a silhouetted picture, so it's a really good picture. But no, and we're gonna redo this one. The picture came out a little pixelated, so we're gonna redo it. But we wanted to have some generic signage for things like that. And then you talk about job shadowing opportunities for high school. Hey, look at that. Tina.
Woo.
Yes. All right. That is the manager's report and all the pictures. Chairman, I will turn it over to you.
Okay, and you guys can.
Oh, you're gonna drop that off for Alyssa, aren't you? Yeah. I'm gonna ask Alyssa to pull together some of Ryan's pictures. Perry's got a ton of pictures. I know we're gonna rob most of the pictures off of that anyways, for our own records, but want to have a more comprehensive maybe slideshow or something for the rodeo pictures. Definitely want to share more of that.
Okay. Next regular Lowell Light and Power Board meeting is May 13th. Board comments, Andrew.
Just a couple things. So the discussion we had about, trying to blink now, I don't know what it was, but with the charts, the reliability and all that. I just want to note that my point in all that was like, don't ignore that's bad, just because it's not fun to look at. But then I'm sure that's the case, but what I wanted to mention there is just that I kind of had a philosophy of I had an interview question way back early in my career, someone said to me, glass half empty, half full. I said, I'm an optimist, I'm a glass half empty. He's like, what do you mean? It's like, well, that means there's an opportunity to fill it more, right? So that's the kind of approach I'd like to take with things like that. When you see there's some area to improve, that's something we embrace, which I think is part of the culture here already. And so I just wanted to kind of show that appreciation for that, right? And tie that into my other comment about that, the benefit we offer to the community, right? The 2.5 million or whatever per year. Well, you know, we're doing all that with just our 20 employees, and making that much good for the community. And so I think that just shows the culture, and again, that we have at Light Power with the staff and the stuff that they do, that we keep hearing about every time. So I like hearing all those stories of all the different initiatives that everyone on the team is doing. So thanks to the staff for that. And then lastly, just congrats to Megan.
It's fun.
Yeah.
Family got, the Light and Power family got a little bit bigger. Always fun.
Mr. Conner.
You know what,
Oh, come on, you didn't have anything to say last one.
it went long.
Oh, okay. Okay. We'll take it for what you're, I just wanna give you a hard time.
Yeah, I mean, it gets, it's not worth anything if I keep saying the same thing all the time.
Gotcha.
It's always fun.
Jim.
I've been driving around a lot lately. I've seen a whole lot of new transmission lines going up. I think there's even one in Saranac right in there.
They're rebuilt, yeah, they're rebuilding.
Yeah, also they're rebuilding now there, but I've seen it from Muskegon all the way over across. I've seen it down south. So there's just, I didn't know what they were for, if there's somebody generating new power to have to support all those or what.
I'd have to, so I'm not but in general, and they haven't been released, but MISO, or they haven't started the projects, but MISO is releasing, they call long-range transmission projects, tranches of long-range transmission projects that you will see. It's about $35 billion worth of projects across MISO North and MISO Central. So you will see more. I don't think any of those are related. They're probably all based on specific needs. Now, the line that crosses 96, kind of over in the Saranac area, that I believe is the Wolverine 69 kV line. And it looks like they're rebuilding that to all steel poles. So, yeah. Oh, yeah. Really?
When the line goes right through my subdivision.
Okay.
We're seeing the path that they're making with like, railroad tie, stones and, big, metal transmission poles, all, staged by each pole, so it's very, Hillary and I can put a lot, straight where we drive by, right in a field. It crosses our line actually on, Pratt Lake, 36 area. Yeah.
I cannot picture that, but that doesn't surprise me.
And unfortunately, Unfortunately, I will not be able to make the lineman appreciation dinner this year, so I wish I could, so that's off to everybody that's gonna attend that, and hope you guys have a good time. I do got a couple mugs off, so I need to know how you spell the new employee's name, so who that is, so I can get those over.
We can do that, yeah. We'll put that in writing.
Sarah's?
Email would be great.
Yeah, right, yeah, we'll email.
Well, I'll blame it on you if it's not.
Yeah, it's Sarah and Ryan, yeah, and Alyssa.
And this next Wednesday, the 23rd, I know you guys got the cleanup.
Yes.
There's also gonna be the Michigan Supreme Court will be at the Lowell High School in the auditorium. I don't know exactly what they're presenting. Now I got the thing that I told Mike, the board to get.
I think it's,
So I don't know exactly what the topic is or the agenda. I just know.
it's an actual case, and it's,
Oh,
I think, I'm not sure if Lowell's First Look has written about it or whatever, but my wife was reading it to me and stuff, and it's an actual case that they're gonna be
okay.
presenting.
Because I guess it was a special invitation, not everybody got one of these, so.
Well, it's like an open invitation, but I think you have to call in and say, I'd like to attend type
Yeah.
deal. So,
That's it for me.
Good, that's big.
Mhm.
Tina,
Thank you to the gentleman that, and you, Perry, that went across the country and competed. What you guys did, it wasn't just all fun and games. You went there and you worked hard and you drove the equipment all the way across for these kids to, these young men to work hard and compete. And I was shocked to see that we were the only ones from the state of Michigan. So Lowell Light Power represented the state of Michigan there. And that speaks volumes. And then they came back and they had up, went north and helped the Tri-County and Harbor Springs. That's huge right there. I just, I'm, as always, I'm so proud of Lowell Light and Power, and that the staff and Charlie is ours to have. We really feel this sense of, you belong to us and we belong to you. You guys are great, and I appreciate everything that you guys do. And that's it.
okay. Again, this was in the hotel that after it was over with, brought back with.
It got appropriated. Oh, yeah, they gave it,
No.
they gave it to him the second they walked out with it under his arm.
What they do is throw them away.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
I'd say.
It was when I left Sunday morning. This went with me.
Is that Mark up there on the phone?
No. But anyway, it was, and you'll get pictures and everything, because it was this location, Roseville. It was at public grounds that the city owns, but it's a racetrack. And the journeymen were inside that, and then the premises were outside that, and it's if you haven't been to one, again, California is a little ways to go, and we've talked about it, but again, next year it's at Huntsville, which Googling it is between a 10.5 and 12-hour drive, depending on how many potty breaks you have and that kind of thing. But I think we're definitely planning to do that. As Charlie and I have talked about it, and it's it's a burden. I mean, I think it's worth it, but to go all the way out west. That's the second time we've been in California. We were out there in Sacramento one year, many years ago, was the Lineman Rodeo was there, but they try to move it around. Again, look forward, and I, like you said, I think it's worth I think it's worth everything that it takes to go there. And with that, the other is, and when to go there and see how many people encouraged, said they couldn't believe Mark was, I mean, again, I think he's proud of it. Mark's 61.
Wow.
And so they have judges, and it's kind of Mark's age or Mark's group that they get people to be judges and come in, and everybody was just going like, I can't believe it. You'd never see me competing like that. So anyway, it's kudos to Mark. The other thing I'm gonna talk about is, and I want the other board members, something that I'm going to start to initiate is, recognizing our employees. And if you see something or whatever that you want to recognize an employee, contact me, email me or whatever. And it's just gonna be a little plaque type thing. But I want to recognize Lisa. The board, she's a great employee, but not only that, she's a great ambassador for Lowell Light and Power. If you read the chambers, she was on the there's several people, but she represented Lowell Light and Power on the committee that created this new slogan for the chamber of your story starts here. And it speaks volumes of our employees. And I want our employees to know that we don't always say something, but the board sees or recognizes things that our employees do outside of Lowell Light and Power, and they represent us well. So again, if you see Lisa, I mean, thank her. I'm gonna get a little, it's just a little memento or whatever that we'll be sending to her, because those things are important to Lowell Light and Power and are important to the community of Lowell. And when I say community, I mean the city, the townships, the surrounding area. Our employees make an impact, and we need, as a board, we need to recognize that. Next month, or soon, in the next month or two, again, it's manager evaluation time again. So start thinking about it. We'll put together a form, or again, sometimes when we're doing it, we fly by the seat of our pants, but again, it's by our charter, and that is something that we're supposed to do before the end of the year, which our year ends June 30th. The rodeo, gets, that pretty much covers everything that I can think of. I don't, if there's anything that you want to add, Charlie, or anything, or if not,
I don't think so.
I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
No support.
It's been moved and supported. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Meeting adjourned.